Hey there, I want to welcome you to Tuesday's edition of Journey Through the Gospels. And today we are in Luke chapter 23, and we are in that time Jesus has been on trial, and he has been made to carry his cross. He got to a certain point where he is just physically exhausted from blood loss and from the whipping and the flogging that he's had. They make Simon pick up the cross and carry it the rest of the way. And Jesus is now on the cross. He's hanging there. And in verse 32 we read, 2 other men, both criminals, were also led out with him to be executed. When they came to the place called the Skull, there they crucified him, along with the criminals, one on his right, the other on his left. And Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. And they divided up his clothes by casting lots. The people stood watching, and the rulers even sneered at him. They said, He saved others. Let him save himself if he is the Christ of God, the chosen one. The soldiers also came up and mocked him. They offered him wine vinegar and said, If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself. There was a written notice above him which read, This is the King of the Jews. And one of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. Aren't you the Christ? Save yourself and us. But the other criminal rebuked him. Don't you fear God, he said, since you are under the same sentence. We are punished justly, for we are getting our deeds what we deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong. Then he said, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus answered him, I tell you the truth, today you will be with me in paradise. Now, picture the scene. Jesus is hanging on the cross. He's hanging between these 2 criminals. And just a few days earlier, and this is Friday, and just a few days earlier on the previous Sunday, Palm Sunday, the people were in the streets, and they were waving palm branches as Jesus was riding into town, and they were crying out, Hosanna to the Son of David, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, Hosanna in the highest. And now some of those same people are the ones in the audience that are hurling insults up at Jesus as he hung on the cross. We hear people saying things like, He saved others. Let him save himself if he is the Christ of God, the chosen one. The soldiers, they get in on the action and they yell out, If you're the King of the Jews, save yourself. And even one of the criminals being crucified next to Jesus says, Aren't you the Christ? Save yourself and us. I mean, can you imagine being in Jesus' skin at this moment? And we talked about in yesterday's devotion that, as much as Jesus is divine, Jesus is also human. And yesterday we looked at how Jesus, as he was praying in the garden, that he had such an emotional strain, it says in agony as he's praying, that he began to sweat drops of blood because the emotional impact of what he's doing is so great. And so there is the part of him that is divine, yes, but he's also human. And so as Jesus, as a human and the Son of God, hanging on this cross, and the people are hurling up all of these insults to him. I mean, inside of you, if you're Jesus, think about all of the things, you're thinking about you're getting ready to pay the ultimate sacrifice for the sins of all of these people that are hurling up their insults at you. And inside you're thinking, man, I'm doing this for you. I'm dying for you, and here you are insulting me. Here you are hurling up these insults at me. And personally, in my humanness, if I were Jesus, I would just want to, just start throwing down lightning bolts and calling down lightning bolts upon all these people. But Jesus didn't do that. Jesus, in fact, did quite the opposite. What did Jesus say as he's hanging on the cross? He says, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. In other words, he says, Father, forgive them because they're ignorant. And the word ignorant, it doesn't have anything to do with somebody's intelligence. Ignorance just means that you just don't know. And so Jesus says, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing as they're hurling up the insults, as they're doing all these things. They don't understand right now. Father, forgive them. It would be hard for me to do that at that moment. But we're talking about Jesus here. We're talking about the one that is the Son of God, and we're talking about the one that, even in his humanness, offers to us the greatest example that ever lived on this earth. He offers a great example to us to forgive others. You know, we forgive others not because they deserve it, but we forgive them because that's what we're supposed to do as Christians. And Jesus tells us in the Sermon on the Mount that if we don't forgive others, then he won't forgive us. The people that are hurling up the insults, they didn't deserve to be forgiven. And yet Jesus was willing to offer that forgiveness to them. And let that be a lesson to us, that we should be as forgiving as Jesus made the example to us of. So I encourage you to do that today, and then the rest of your life to show that same kind of forgiveness to others. That's going to do it for today. Tomorrow we're going to be in the last chapter of Luke chapter 24. I'll see you tomorrow.